Hello everyone, welcome to Unacademy. This is Debashri here. If you want to join Unacademy, you can join in with the help of my referral code DEBA1. So what are the benefits of joining Unacademy is daily live classes, structured courses as per the standard CSIR syllabus, live tests and quizzes, unlimited access to all the educators at single subscription. So if you want to join Unacademy Plus, you can join it with the help of my referral code. If we see the price list, if you join for 1 month, it will be around 1890. For 3 months, it is 4725. For 6 months, it is 7560. For 12 months, it is 9450. And for 24 months, it is 11340. If you use my referral code DEBA1, you will be getting a 10% off on all this. So to avail this maximum benefit on minimum price, you can use my referral code DEBA1. So today in this class, we are going to see the post-transcriptional modifications. So post-transcriptional modifications, if we see, first in this class, we will be discussing about the processing of mRNA. Then in the upcoming classes, we will see processing of rRNA and processing of tRNA, right? So we all know that double-stranded RNA after transcription, it changes to pre-mRNA, right? This pre-mRNA undergo modification, post-transcriptional modification, and changes to mRNA, right? So we are going to see this part. What are the changes that this mRNA undergo to get converted to a stable mRNA from pre-mRNA, right? So basically we know that there are three types of RNAs: rRNA, mRNA, tRNA, right? rRNA is formed by RNA polymerase 1, mRNA is formed by RNA polymerase 2, tRNA is formed by RNA polymerase 3. So if we talk about pre-mRNA processing, the eukaryotic pre-mRNA undergoes extensive processing before it is ready to be translated. Eukaryotic mRNA maturation creates a molecule with a much longer half-life than a prokaryotic mRNA, right? So if we see this part, the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic mRNA, see here, in case of prokaryotic, the mRNA, there is no processing. Why no processing? Because introns are absent or very less. So there is a no need of processing of mRNA. So here in prokaryotes, what will happen? Transcription and translation overlapping will take place. Transcription and translation overlapping will take place as there is no intron, or introns are present in a very less amount, right? But if we talk about eukaryotes, you can see this pre-mRNA changes to mRNA with the help of capping, polyadenylation, splicing, and mRNA editing. So these are the steps it undergo to get converted from pre-mRNA to mRNA, right? So pre-mRNA are first coated in RNA stabilizing protein. These protect the pre-mRNA from degradation while it is processed and exported out of the nucleus. The three most important steps of pre-mRNA processing are addition of stabilizing signaling factor at the 5' to 3' and the removal of intervening sequences. So we will see these things in detail now. So what you need to know in this slide is that mRNA processing in eukaryotes, it is taking place in eukaryotes. It is absent in prokaryotes because prokaryotes do not have introns, or they are present in very less amount. So directly they undergo translation after transcription. So it is overlapping. But in case of eukaryotes, they undergo modifications like poly A addition, capping, then you can say splicing, right? Okay. Now, what are the processing? Why we need to do processing for mRNA? Because it makes mRNA stable, right? It makes mRNA useful for translation and also to prevent the mRNA from degradation. If mRNA is not processed properly, it is susceptible for degradation. So to prevent this degradation also, there is an addition of, or there is a modifications of mRNA so that it becomes stable, right? So the process, why we do this process, this processing is needed to remove introns, unwanted base removal. If any unwanted base is present, that also gets removed, and addition of some nucleotide. So these are the changes in prokaryotes. In prokaryotic RNA, mRNA will not undergo processing, but pre-rRNA and pre-tRNA will undergo processing. Pre-rRNA will undergo cutting, trimming, chemical modifications and change to rRNA. Similarly, pre-tRNA will go cutting, trimming, chemical modifications of CCA addition and get changed to tRNA. Now, what is cutting and trimming? I will tell you simply. We will see this in detail, but this is to make you understand, give you an overview. Cutting and trimming means what? Suppose if exonuclease part, if you want to trim this part, or this part, the ends part, then we call this part as trimming. But if you want to clip in between portion, then we call it cutting. Right, so this way we will see this in more detail in our upcoming classes. So this is a eukaryotic RNA. Pre-mRNA get changed to mRNA with the help of capping, polydenylation, splicing, mRNA editing. Pre-rRNA changes to rRNA with the help of cutting, trimming, chemical modifications and splicing. Pre-tRNA undergoes cutting, trimming, splicing, chemical modification, CCA addition and gets converted to tRNA. We will see one by one everything, right? Okay, coming to processing of mRNA. So in case of processing of mRNA, the first step is capping. The capping is 5' capping. Why it is called 5' capping? Because addition of capping at 5' end. So we called it 5' capping, right? So all mRNAs are synthesized by RNA polymerase II. And this is a co-transcriptional synthesis you can take place. That means once mRNA, you can say, you know what is co-transcriptional? Co-transcriptional means together it undergo modifications, right? So we called it co-transcriptional. Along with the synthesis, it undergo modifications, right? So that is what we call it co-transcriptional. So what is the role of processing of mRNA? Is obviously we have discussed. It increases the stability. It helps in transport from non-cytosolic to it should be from nucleus. It helps in transport from nucleus to cytosolic part, because the site of this is a nucleus, so it helps in transport from nucleus to cytosolic part. Coming to 5' capping. What is 5' capping? While the pre-mRNA is still being synthesized, that is what we call co-transcription. That means together with transcription, a 7-methylguanosine cap is added to the 5' end of the growing transcript. So if whenever RNA is synthesizing, 7-methylguanosine cap is added to the 5' end of the growing transcript mRNA by a 5' to 5' phosphate linkage. This, why we need to do this? Because this you can say 7-methylguanosine cap addition, this addition, 5' capping addition, what is the benefit of this is that this protects the mRNA from degradation. Protects mRNA from degradation. So this basically what it will do, it protects mRNA from degradation. In addition, initiation factors involved in protein synthesis recognizes the cap to help initiate translation by ribosomes. And also there are certain initiation factors we have seen in our translation classes, and those initiation factors actually recognizes this 5' cap and initiate the translation process. So capping of 5' mRNA, so this is basically a mRNA, and this is the 5' end, and this is your 3' end, right? So you can see 5' end is having always phosphate and 3' end is having hydroxy, right? Everybody knows. So in case of, if we say 5' phosphate, there are 3 phosphates, alpha, beta and gamma, right? Now in capping, during the time of capping, what will happen? This gamma phosphate will get removed as gamma PI. and this is done by the help of the enzyme phosphohydrolase. So phosphohydrolase basically remove this gamma phosphate, right? Why it removes the gamma phosphate? So that the GTP, see GTP, it is triphosphate, right? So from here alpha phosphate will come and attaches to the 5' beta phosphate of mRNA, right? So now this will attach to this phosphate with the help of enzyme guanyl transferase. Now they will form a stable compound with the help of a methyl transferase 7 methylo. See, this methyl group is added to guanine at 7th position, so we call it 7th methyl guanosine. You can see here 7 methyl guanosine cap, 7 methyl guanosine cap. Why we call it 7 methyl guanosine cap? Because it has been added to your guanine at 7th position, right? Now once this is done, in this nucleotides, because this will be this part is having all the nucleotides, so this nucleotides is having a methyl group. If first is adenine, then there will be addition of methyl group at 6th position, right? But if adenine is absent, then there will be no addition of methyl group. Methyl group addition takes place only at adenine, right? Poly A tailing, where RNA polymerase 2 is still transcribing downstream of the proper end of gene, the pre-mRNA is cleaved by an endonuclease containing protein complex between an AAUAA, which we call poly A signal. This is poly A signal site, right? And this is GU-rich sequences. This releases the functional pre-mRNA from the rest of the transcript, which is still attached to the RNA polymerase. An enzyme called poly A polymerase is a part of the same protein complex that cleaves the pre-mRNA, and it immediately adds a string of approximately, okay, we will see here in detail. See, polyadenylation, right? Poly means many. Adenylation means addition of adenine. So polyadenylation stands for additions of adenine, right? The site for polyadenylation is nucleus. It takes place in the nucleus. It is also co-transcriptional. So here you see this is the mRNA. This is 5' end, this is 3' end, right? Now if you see the 5' end is having AAUAA, this part, it is AAUAA rich in adenine, right? So we call it poly A signal. And this is GU rich, this part. And this is CA, which is also poly A rich. This is also rich in adenosine. Now there will be involvement of 3 factors. What are the 3 factors? First is your CPSF. What is CPSF? Cleavage polyadenylation specific factor. Second will be cleavage stimulating factor. And third, CF1 and CF2. This is also endonuclease in nature. So what will happen? See, this CPSF will bind to poly A site. This CPSF binds to poly A signal. Got the point? And this CSTF get added to GU part, GU rich. So what will happen when this, say for example, when this CPSF binds to this part and when CSTF binds to GU rich, so it both of this causes the banding of the mRNA. So you can see how the mRNA will look like this. So here you can see, let me change the color to give you a clear idea. So here we can say CPSF attached to your AAUAA, and here you can see CSTF attached to GU. So what is happening now? Once this banding is taking place, this CA site is getting exposed. This CA site is getting exposed here, right? So as a result, when this CPSF and CSTF binds to mRNA, what will happen? They causes the bending of mRNA. They causes what? Bending of mRNA. Now what will happen? This CA site gets exposed, bending of mRNA. As a result, CA site gets exposed. So when this CA site is getting exposed, who will come and attach to this CA site? CF1 and CF2. So here you can say, let me change the color. Just a minute, students. So here what will happen? CA, there will be addition of CF1 and CF2, which is basically what? Nature is endonuclease. So what will they do? They will cleave it here. They will cleave it here, and an enzyme, poly-A polymerase will come. Poly-A polymerase will come, and it will keep on adding the adenine. Then poly-A binding protein will come, which will increases the stability of the process, right? So what we have seen is, let me tell you here, this is mRNA with 5' to 3', and here it is AAUAA, this is CA, and this is GU-rich site. So what will happen? The moment, see here I am again explaining, the moment here cleavage stimulating factor and cleavage polyadenylation specific factor, right? Both of this will get bind to this site. As a result, what will happen? There will be a banding of the, this is first step is binding of CPSF and CSTF to mRNA at poly-A signal and GU-rich site. This, after binding, what will happen? This causes bending of mRNA, resulting in exposure of CA site. Resulting in what? Exposure of, so this is the CA site, right? And here you can see this is CPSF and this is CSTF. Attached AAUAA, sorry for the color changed, GU, right? Now once CA is getting exposed, the third step will what? CF1 and CF2 will come and binds to CA site and cleaves the mRNA. So you'll be getting how it looks like is, so here there will be poly-A polymerase will come, and it will keep on adding this adenine, right? So you can see addition of many adenine here, so we call it poly-A, and this process is stabilized by PABP, that is polyadenylation binding protein, right? That is what is your polyadenylation is taking place. Coming to pre-mRNA splicing, eukaryotic genes are composed of exons, which corresponds to protein coding sequences and intervening sequences called introns, which may be involved in gene regulations but are removed from the pre-mRNA during processing. See, basically let me tell you here, see, this part is called intron and this part we call it exon. Exon is known as coding sequences, right? And introns is known as non-coding sequences. So what is our aim is to remove this intron, right? During splicing we aim to remove this intron. So how this intron is removed is, see, the 2' hydroxy from this side will attack from this adenine. See, this 2' hydroxy will attack to this 5' splice site, right? 5' splice site. Now what happened? The 3' exon hydroxy will attack the 3' splice site of this part. So what will happen? See, there will be there will be attract from this 2' hydroxy end to this 5' splice site. Now 3' exon, this is 3' exon will attack. This is 5', this is 3' exon, this is exon, right? So this 3' exon will attack the 3' splice site, right? Now what will happen once they attack? It causes a formation of lariat. This is what we call lariat formation, and intron gets removed. This is what is the intron, right? And this exons gets joined, and this we call spliced mRNA, right? Let me tell you here, intron processing. All introns in a pre-mRNA must be completely and precisely removed before protein synthesis. Because why it has to be removed? Because these are the non-coding sequences. So we remove, and if they code for something, they code for, you can say, maturase, endonuclease sometimes, but most of the time they are non-coding. So if the process errors by even a single nucleotide, the reading frame of the rejoin exons would shift and resulting protein will be dysfunctional, right? So the process of removing introns and reconnecting exon is called splicing. So what is splicing? The process of removing introns and reconnecting exons. Introns are removed and degraded while the pre-mRNA is still in the nucleus. Splicing occurs by a specific sequence mechanism that ensures introns will be removed and exons rejoined with the accuracy and precision of a single nucleotide. The splicing of pre-mRNA is conducted by complexes of proteins and RNA molecule called spliceosome. So what is spliceosome? It is basically proteins plus RNA molecule. So why we need to do splicing? Splicing is what, if I talk about splicing is basically removal of introns and joining of exons, and this splicing is mediated with the help of spliceosome. What is spliceosome? It is protein and RNA, right? Now see, each spliceosome is composed of 5 subunits called SNRP for small nuclear ribonucleoparticles. Each SNRP is itself a complex of protein and a special type of RNA found only in the nucleus called small nuclear RNA. Spliceosome recognizes at the 5' end of the intron because intron always starts with the nucleotide GU, and they recognize a sequence at the 3' end of the intron because they always end with nucleotide AG. The spliceosome cleaves the pre-mRNA sugar phosphate backbone at the G that starts the intron and then covalently attaches that G to an internal A nucleotide with the intron. Then the spliceosome connects the 3' end of the first exon to the 5' end of the following exon, cleaving the 3' end of the intron in the process. Okay, so see, basically what this wants to say is that the spliceosome, what we have studied, spliceosome, it is nothing but it is a 5 subunit protein which we call SNRP, right? That is your small nucleolar ribonucleoprotein. It is a complex of protein and special type of RNA found in the nucleus. So this SNRP is made up of what? This SNRP is made up of what? Made up of proteins and small nucleolar RNA, means RNA which is found in the nucleus, right? So what is the function of the spliceosome? This spliceosome will recognize, what is the function of spliceosome? They recognizes what? Sequence at the 5' end of the intron. If you see, this is intron, right? So what they will do, they will recognize the 5' end of the introns 5', and they will recognize, see here, they will recognize the sequence 5' end of the intron because intron always start with nucleotide GU. Intron always starts with nucleotide GU. See, this is GU rich intron, right? As introns always, this is intron intron always starts with GU, which is their 5' end. So this spliceozyme will recognize this end. Recognize, right? You can write it here. Recognize the 5' end of the intron, because intron always start with nucleotide GU, and they recognize sequence of the 3' end of the intron because they always end with the nucleotide AG. See, this is the 3' end of the intron. This is, this is the 3' end of the intron. So the spliceosome will recognize this 5' end. Why? Because it is rich in GU, and it also recognizes 3' end because it is rich in AG. Right? Clear, everyone? The spliceosome cleaves the pre-mRNA sugar phosphate backbone at the G that starts the intron. So it will cleave it here at the G. Right? And then covalently attaches that G to an internal A nucleotide with the intron. This, now once it cleave A, what it will do, see here, once it cleave the A, so see here, this, listen everyone, what it will do, this will cleave what? This is GU. Once it is cleaved here, this causes the internal bone formation. See, this is the internal bone formation. Once it has been cleaved by spliceosome, so they will result in the formation of intrabone, and this leads to the formation of a structure called lariat. Right? See here, the spliceosome cleaves the pre-mRNA, recognizes plus cleave what? Cleave mRNA, not mRNA, pre-mRNA sugar phosphate backbone. Pre-mRNA sugar phosphate backbone at the G that starts the intron, where they will cleave at G. Sorry. They will cleave at, let me tell you, they will cleave at this part. They will cleave backbone at G. Very important, right? See here, cleave the phosphate backbone at the, G, right? G that starts the intron, and then covalently attaches that G to an internal A nucleotide. This is A nucleotide, this is the joining after cleaving, right? Then the spliceosome connects the 3' end of the first exon to the 5' end of the following exon. Now you can see this 3' end of the exon is get connected to the 5' end, and this part get removed as a lariat. Right? So this is how the splicing will takes place. So here also I have this is gene mRNA. This is basically your mRNA. DNA. What I am doing? Just a minute. This is basically your DNA, right? So this DNA will, after transcription, it will form pre-mRNA, right? So pre-mRNA, see here, intron is present, right? So now there will be processing to remove those intron, to add 5' processing. How it will take processing? Basically addition of 5' capping 7-methylguanosine cap at 5' and polyadenylation and splicing, right? So splicing will remove this intron. So what will happen? See, this hydroxide, adenine hydroxide, will attack this GU site. See here, this is 2' hydroxy will attack this 5' splice site, right? Now 5' splice site gets attacked by 2' hydroxy, and the 3' exon hydroxy, this is the hydroxide linked to exon, this will attack to your what? 3'. This will attack to your 3' intron guanine, right? So what will happen? It will cleave here, and this process gets, this part gets removed as larian. This process is also helped by spliceosome, and this is the mRNA which we wanted, right, for the further processing. Thank you so much, students, for watching the sessions. If you have any doubts or any queries, you can ask me. Feel free to ask me. Thank you so much, students. Keep on watching.